And what do you make of Usman's, he's saying, like, if you guys are backstage together, you might need extra security after the issues you guys have had.
Who?
Kamaru Usman.
The former champion on a 3-fight losing streak. I would have to be afraid of that guy with no knees and no cartilage and a big head. Nah, man, I think I'll be fine.
Belal Muhammad and Kamaru Usman's feud has exploded beyond the cage, forcing talk of security and real consequences.
Of course, Belal did Belal, so the interview didn't go as planned. That was the biggest moment of his life because that's all that he seems to want to talk about. I haven't mentioned it at all.
Pound for Pound podcast sucks.
We hear you fans. We will definitely drop the interview. We get really, really low on content. I mean, why not?
Tensions between current UFC welterweight champion Belal Muhammad and former title holder Kamaru Usman have reached a boiling point, with their fiery rivalry now spilling over into the public spotlight. What started as competitive banter has transformed into a feud so intense that Usman himself has admitted the need for security if the two are to cross paths again. It all exploded during a podcast recording gone wrong, and the fallout has added serious heat to the already red-hot welterweight division.
Did you roast him? Like, did you give him some jokes and he just couldn't really take them? Like, what did
I didn't even like I just hit him with facts and truth, and I think that his ego is so big that it hurt him a little bit, right? He's so used to talking back and forth with like morons like Kobe Covington and stuff, but when he has somebody that's intelligent and way wittier than all these guys and smarter than these guys, I think that his ego got involved and it started hurting him. It started stinging a little bit, almost brought him to tears.
Dude, really? So did he actually get pretty upset during the recording?
I'll leave it at that, we'll just keep it right there.
Well, let's get it.
Belal, who captured the UFC welterweight title by defeating Leon Edwards in a dominant performance at UFC 304 last July, is set to make his first title defense at UFC 315. He'll face surging Australian contender Jack Della Maddalena, a fighter riding a wave of momentum with 7 straight UFC wins. But while Belal prepares for what could be the biggest night of his career, the shadow of Kamaru Usman looms large, not because of rankings, but because of a personal grudge that's now impossible to ignore.
He's on a 3-fight losing streak. When these guys are calling him out, he's acting like he's putting himself on this pedestal like he's still the champion, like they shouldn't be calling him out. But bro, you're just a podcaster now. You haven't fought in over a year. And if you're not going to defend your ranking, then leave. Like, quit. Like, you're on a 3-fight losing streak. You start looking at retirement now, or you're going to get on that, Tony Ferguson losing streak, and people are going to forget that you were ever champion.
The bitter exchange between the two fighters reached new heights during a recent attempt at a joint appearance on Usman's Pound for Pound podcast. What was supposed to be a cordial conversation turned sour almost instantly, prompting co-host Henry Cejudo to end the recording after just 10 minutes. The podcast episode was never released, but both Belal and Usman have since opened up about the confrontation, painting a picture of egos clashing in real time.
To be honest, I mean, it's the biggest moment of his life. That's why he talks about it every second. But, and if we do drop the interview, it'll be the second biggest moment of his life because it gives him relevance. It gives him a little bit of clout. Look, I was able to maybe tangle with the champ a little bit, which wasn't that eventful. But if he's able to get through Shavkat Rakhmonov and we run super low on content, why not?
Belal later described the encounter in detail during an appearance on the Full Send podcast. According to him, the tension began when Cejudo asked him what it felt like to be at the top of the division. Belal, basking in his recent championship win, spoke about the attention that comes with being the title holder. Usman, unable to let go of his past reign, jumped in to remind him that he too had once held the belt, but Belal wasn't having it. He reminded Usman that he wasn't champion anymore, and worse, that he was now riding a 3-fight losing streak.
Usman's like, I was a champ too. It's like, yeah, but you're not the champ anymore. And then he just couldn't let it go. He's like, but I'm right there. I was like, nah, bro, you're on a 3-fight losing streak. And he's like, I still had the belt. And I was like, I'm the champion now. But he just couldn't give me my props, right? It was just one of those where he was just like, but anything you do, I do better than you. And then I was like, but you didn't take the head kick better than me.
What truly lit the spark, according to Belal, was a pointed remark about Usman's infamous knockout loss to Leon Edwards. When Usman claimed he did everything better than Belal, the champion shot back that Usman didn't take the head kick better than him. A sharp reference to the moment Edwards dropped Usman with a clean shot at UFC 278. That dig reportedly sent Usman over the edge. According to Belal, Usman's demeanor turned serious as he muttered that it was on site if people kept talking like that.
And then I was like, but you didn't take the head kick better than me. And I think that just like triggered him, where he was just like, I don't play these games, man. It's on site when people talk like that. And I'm just like, we're right in front of each other on site. So then, you know,
you guys did it in person?
Yeah, it was in person.
Oh, because they do it over Zoom sometimes too.
No,
right?
this was in person. Yeah.
Oh,
We
shit.
had the same manager, right?
Yeah.
Ali was like,
Ali's the GOAT.
bro, yeah, he's the man. And when he told me to go do their podcast, I was like, are you sure? He said, no, brother, it's gonna be professional. It's gonna be this. Like, you're good. I was like, bro, it doesn't matter to me. Like, I'm the champ. I don't really care. I'll go on the podcast. And then, you know, Henry Cejudo twisted his ankle, had to break it up. But
Oh, you guys actually got into a physical.
yeah. But
Have you guys said that publicly ever or no?
yeah, I mean, I think
I didn't know
put
that.
out there. But like I said, they had the footage, right? Maybe he's waiting to.
Oh,
to
so you
edit
guys
and put
actually
some stuff
got
out
into
there.
it. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Usman later confirmed that tensions with Belal are real and not just promotional noise. He admitted that things got so intense during the podcast recording that he might actually need security the next time they're in the same venue. While Usman maintains he's usually calm outside of the cage, he acknowledged that returning to the competitive grind has changed his mindset. He even compared the shift to a conversation he once had with Georges St-Pierre, where the UFC legend described the mental toll of always being in fight mode.
If you guys were like backstage at a UFC event that neither of you were competing on, the security would be need to be aware of where you are. Does it like rise to that level?
Probably.
Wow.
Yeah, because I would say, I say that only because obviously I'm very level-headed and especially when I'm outside of the cage. But for the last almost 2 years now, a year and a half, I haven't been in the thick of it. There's a transition when you're not in it, because I'm and people can't, they expect us to be these fighters and we're always on go mode, to where when I'm outside of the cage, people are like, why are you so calm? You're a scary fighter. But I'm not like that. And so when you're in the thick of it, you're on alert all the time. And even me and George St. Pierre, we had this conversation where he expressed that to me. He's like, when you're in it, you're always this defensive guy. And I hadn't been that for a while, but now that I'm back in the thick of it, yeah, you probably have to have security back there with us.
Adding another layer to the drama is Belal's ongoing conflict with Colby Covington, another former title challenger and professional agitator. Known for his trolling, Covington recently posted a video from the UFC Performance Institute where he moved Belal's food from a fridge, making it difficult for the champ to find. Belal, who wasn't even in Las Vegas at the time, laughed off the prank but didn't miss the chance to take a jab. He joked that Covington had become more of a YouTuber than a fighter, and that he and Usman should start a podcast together called The Biggest Losers.
And then lastly, I just saw a video online. Colby Covington hid your food at the PI. I don't know if you're aware of that or if you even care, but curious what you think about Colby still throwing shots at you at this point.
He hit my food. I'm not even in Vegas. That's how much of a moron he is. I don't know what he's doing. These guys are like YouTubers now. Kamaru's a podcaster. Kobe's a YouTuber. They need to do a podcast together, the Biggest Losers.
While the off-cage drama is grabbing headlines, Belal knows that what matters most is defending his title. Standing in his way is Jack Della Maddalena, a 17-2 Australian prospect who has been tearing through the welterweight ranks. Since debuting in 2022, Della Maddalena has racked up an impressive 7-fight winning streak in the UFC, showcasing a mix of striking power and submission skill. He made his UFC debut at UFC 270 against Pete Rodriguez, dismantling his opponent with a jab that broke the nose before ending the fight with a brutal left hook. He followed that with quick knockouts of Ramazan Emeev and Danny Roberts, establishing himself as a fearsome striker early in his UFC career. But Della Maddalena proved he could be more than just a knockout artist when he submitted Randy Brown at UFC 284, adapting to Brown's reach advantage by sinking in a rear naked choke.
What do you think of Belal Muhammad as a champion? And be honest, what do you think of his fight style?
It's no question. He's got a boring fight style. You know, he's good at holding people down, getting victories, but across the board, you know, he can hold down the strikers, he can outstrike the grapplers.
How do you rate his striking?
I think he's fast. He's not. I wouldn't say he's dangerous. I definitely think he's fast. You know, I think his threat of the takedown makes his striking better. Definitely think it's a boring style, but I mean, I think winning is obviously his #1 goal, and fair play to him. But I feel like I can beat him. I'm a more dangerous fighter for sure. And not only get the world title, we get the world title off a dominant finish.
His next fight against Basil Hafez was his toughest test yet. The two engaged in a back-and-forth war that went the distance, with Della Maddalena edging out a split decision win thanks to superior cardio. A similar pattern emerged in his fight against Kevin Holland, but Della Maddalena rebounded in style by finishing Gilbert Burns. In that bout, he escaped a dangerous submission attempt before landing a devastating knee and a flurry of elbows to earn a late TKO victory. Della Maddalena's perfect 7-0 UFC run gives him a longer active streak than Belal, adding intrigue to Saturday's title fight. While Belal has won 11 of his last fights and now holds the belt, his opponent's finishing ability and composure in deep waters make this a legitimate threat to his reign.
This sort of rhetoric from Belal Muhammad, Belal's going to break you after a few rounds. What would you say in response to that?
That's the fight. Who's going to break first? That's what this battle's about. He's pretty well-rounded. He's able to hold people down. I definitely feel like I've got the better striking. I do think I've got some good grappling that he might be not prepared for. So I might try and be able to pull out a submission at some point if he lays on me for too long. We'll see who breaks first. I'm going to take my opportunity and I'm going to take the belt, and then they can all come to me.
Can JDM submit Belal Muhammad at UFC 315?
As anticipation builds for the UFC welterweight title clash between Belal Muhammad and Jack Della Maddalena, a range of fighters have weighed in with varying takes, reflecting both respect and uncertainty surrounding the matchup. Daniel Cormier sees Della Maddalena as a rare talent in the division, pointing to his technical precision and mental fortitude as key reasons why he could dethrone an established name like Muhammad. Cormier considers the Australian's undefeated UFC run and ability to finish fights as indicators that this bout could signal a shift in the division's hierarchy.
Jack Della Maddalena is a very exciting fighter. He's a tremendous striker, and he really does have all the skills in the world. My worry, or my thought, is with the way Belal Muhammad has been fighting recently, the pressure, the wrestling, he seems to be a nightmare of a matchup for Jack Della Maddalena. But at the end of the day, fights happen for a reason. We don't know the result, and you never know what goes on inside that octagon. And Jack Della Maddalena has the skills to unseat Belal Muhammad. It's a great fight, and it's a good fight for the division if Shavkat can't go. But again, it's one of those young guys, Chael, that has worked his way up through the UFC. He's undefeated, and now he's getting an opportunity to become a world champion.
Robert Whitaker also backed Della Maddalena, arguing that the matchup is being undervalued by some observers. He compared it to the overlooked Muhammad versus Edwards fight, suggesting this could similarly serve as a breakout moment, this time for the Australian standout.
I'm curious. Like, I'm so pumped JDM is getting that shot. I think like this fight is so winnable for him, so winnable, because you see, looking at it very, very casually, it's kind of, the matchup is kind of similar to Belal fighting Leon. All right. But I think JDM, especially after his fight with Burns, has obviously been working that kind of defensive game, been able to punch through it, right? But also, I think his close pocket fighting is better, so that when Belal closes that gap, which was giving Leon Edwards a lot of trouble, because Leon likes fighting on the outside, JDM doesn't like need to fight on the outside. He can fight very, very well inside. So when Belal closes that distance, that space, Jack may hurt him there.
On the other side, several fighters with direct or strategic insight into Muhammad's game are rallying behind the champion. Sean Brady, who once shared the octagon with Muhammad, expressed that every win for Muhammad strengthens the legitimacy of his own career. While he acknowledged Della Maddalena's striking danger and resilience, he ultimately believes Muhammad's consistency and fight IQ will prove decisive. Nevertheless, Brady remains open to a rematch should the belt change hands.
For Belal, since he beat me, of course, the better he does, the better it makes my loss look to him, you know. He went out, he beat Leon, and now he's fighting Jack, which Jack's a super tough fight. I was getting ready for Jack for our fight before when I had to pull out, and I know how good Jack is, and Jack can knock anybody out in the world, but you can't bet against Belal. He finds ways to win, and I think he's going to win that one. And of course, I want him to be champion when we fight again, but if for some reason he does lose, I would fight him for a #1 contender.
Daniel Rodriguez echoed that cautious optimism for Muhammad, conceding that Della Maddalena's recent performances have been impressive, but suggesting the champion's tactical edge might tilt the contest in his favor. In what he sees as a closely matched fight, experience and control could be the deciding factors.
JDM's on a roll, man. he been, doing his own job. And yeah, man, I don't know. I just think maybe Belal might take this one.
Former light heavyweight champ Jamahal Hill also sided with Muhammad, analyzing Della Maddalena's struggles with closing distance. For Hill, if Muhammad can maintain range and integrate his wrestling effectively, he could not only control the pace, but put the challenger in unfamiliar territory.
No question, I gotta go with Belal Muhammad. Jack is a beast, and he does present some problems as far as with the boxing and things like that go. But I believe his one of his deficiencies is covering distance. I mean, closing the distance and closing the range. So I believe if Belal keeps a good distance in between, it makes him actually have to work to get to him. It'll make it easier for him to get, to get off into what he likes to do, which is make people work and put them in that blender work piece and with punches and then the grappling.
Georges St-Pierre offered a more nuanced analysis, pointing out that while the bout has been widely labeled a striker versus wrestler contest, Muhammad brings more depth to the table than many acknowledge.
Jake on the other side, he's on a tear. He's got a good momentum. He's on a winning streak, and it's gonna be an interesting fight. On the one side, Jake, I think he could have the advantages if in the striking department, but it's not only a kickboxing match, it's mixed martial art, and that's when I believe if I'm Belal Muhammad, that's where you take advantage of it. I think he's got more tools to win, but that doesn't mean he's gonna win. So it's all about how they're gonna match their style against each other.
GSP sees Muhammad's unorthodox striking as a potential disruptor to Della Maddalena's rhythm-based boxing. He believes that if Muhammad can interrupt that flow and keep the challenger guessing, the champion may even find success in striking exchanges. Still, GSP admitted that Della Maddalena's power and accuracy make him a serious knockout threat if the fight stays on the feet.
It's always about cracking the code, and he's the champion for a reason. That means nobody has cracked the code so far. And Belal has a style, he's very aggressive. He put a constant forward pressure, and he make guys fighting on their heels. And he's very good at changing level and changing the momentum of the fight. And that's his main asset. That's his bread and butter. And Jake on the other side is a very good striker. I mean, they both match. I don't know how it's gonna go. To tell you the truth, it's a very interesting matchup. But it's, as you say, it's not as simple as saying, oh, it's striking versus grappling, because it's not. The striking in MMA is very different. It's not only about like a kickboxing fight. There's takedowns. There's so much things involved, and the distance is different.
Meanwhile, Curtis Blaydes centered his view on the mental aspects of competition. He placed his trust in Muhammad's ability to remain focused under pressure, referencing the champion's history of staying composed during unorthodox situations, including early morning fights and high-profile cards. Blaydes suggested that Muhammad's psychological stability could serve as the deciding factor in what is expected to be a razor-close encounter.
Man, I'm gonna go with Belal. I think him having that experience, that weird fight night, pay-per-view experience, having a fight at 5 a.m., I don't think there's anything harder than that. So I think mentally he'll have the advantage, and that'll be enough.
With the championship on the line and multiple rivalries brewing, UFC 315 is shaping up to be more than just another pay-per-view. It's a statement night. Belal will look to prove that he's not just a placeholder champion, but a legitimate long-term ruler of the division. Della Maddalena, meanwhile, has a chance to shock the world and usher in a new era at welterweight. All the while, the looming presence of Kamaru Usman and the growing chorus of contenders waiting in the wings make this moment even more critical. Whether Belal defends his title or not, the fallout from UFC 315 will almost certainly reshape the landscape of the welterweight division. So what are your thoughts about this? Do let us know in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe and check out some of our other videos on the screen right now.